The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Memorial Day episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you, so you don't have to. Going to do what I always do and put their logo in that top right corner so you know where to go if you are in the market for a new or used vehicle. It is Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. There is no one that treats you better and no one that goes the extra mile like Greenwood. We try to do the same here on this show every single day, and we are going to continue to do so throughout the rest of Running Point. So we got a great episode for you today. We're going to talk about the regional finals that happened on Friday. We are 3 for 3 in going to state on the softball side of things. We'll give props and flowers and talk about all those three regional final games. We also have a pretty cool interview coming up. It's going to be live on the show, too. Fitch is kind of a full circle moment. The first time they're going to state since 1993. And we're going to have Lisa Butis and Maddie Butis join the show at 1:15. Maddie, we've already talked to, obviously, a key member of this Fitch softball team that is won a regional, but her mom, Lisa, she was a member of the 1994 softball team, was an 8th grader in 1993, the last time Fitch went to state in softball. They also went to the regional finals 2 years after that, with Lisa being a freshman and a sophomore. Kind of the last time that Fitch was in this really big heyday of being a strong, built, consistent program, getting to regional finals. And now they're back at it. Went to the regional final last year, got there this year, won it this year, and we're going to talk to both of them kind of about how this full circle moment feels from both of their perspectives, and it's going to be a fun conversation with both of them at 1:15 as well. Before we get to the recaps, though, I wanted to, happy Memorial Day to everybody out there. Had some wonderful parades this morning. This is the day where we kind of honor and remember all the people that have given the ultimate sacrifice for this country. Any war that they fought in, we go back to the Revolutionary War, where people fought tyrants that were across the ocean to say that we deserve our freedom, our independence, and then it goes into all the other major world conflicts that we've had to fight throughout history to preserve what we feel is freedom and what we feel is the most important thing to have, which absolutely is. And history, whether you're a history fan or not, it'll teach you that we don't always do it right, like every country in the world, but we come up in the big moments. That's the sports analogy for America. And whether it be World War I, getting involved after the sinking of the Lusitania, and then World War II, avenging Pearl Harbor, coming back with a vengeance. We've always been the comeback kings, right, in the military. But we come today and we remember all those people and the sacrifices they made in all those conflicts to maintain our freedom and, honestly, the freedom of others, which is also very important in those conflicts. So we thank them all for their service today and every day, really. But today's the one that we really make it even a more of a concerted effort to do so. I'm in my red, white, and blue, and there's a reason that YSN colors are red, white, and blue, because we strongly believe that we are in the best country in the world, and we will proudly represent those colors through all of our days at YSN. So with that being said, I want to dive in to some softball regional finals, right? I mean, that's what the fun is about. That's what we're so excited about today, because we have gotten 3 teams into state, and we're going to share the bracket screen for you here. Make sure it goes up. Boop. And we'll full screen that too. All right, so here we go. We'll start with the game that I was at that I can speak pretty heavily about since I was there and I witnessed it firsthand. We'll go into Division 3. We'll probably go from Division 3 to the interview section of the show and then go back into Division 1 and Division 2. These are the statewide tournament brackets. You can see here that the state semifinals are set in Firestone, and we're talking about this one on the very bottom, South Range versus Champion. And it was South Range that gets the win in extra innings, 8 innings affair, 8-4. They beat the Flashes, and South Range moving on to their 3rd state tournament appearance since 2016. And when you're looking at this game, one of the things that I think was a major difference, and I think there were 2 major differences, but one of the ones is one that I pretty much expected, and I was telling people that always were asking me, what do you think is going to be the big keys to this game? Who do you think has the advantage in this situation, And I think one of the things I was saying all week leading up to that game, well, I should say all day because it was only a 2-day break between games, was that I believed that South Range had a deeper lineup 1 through 9, and I thought that was going to become a factor in this game. And it turned out that that was absolutely the truth. You look at the numbers of this game. We're going to go into the box score real quick. And if you look, you'll quickly see how balanced this Raider lineup was. And it's because no one had an amazing day at the plate. No one went like 4 for 4 with 5 RBIs or anything like that. But you look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 9 had hits in the game. And their 5 through 9 hitters were a combined 6 for 15. So the bottom of the order for South Range really did a lot of damage. Top of the order did what they always do. And because of that, I think you saw South Range put a lot more pressure on Gabby Gradishar than Champion's offense did to Julie Sakowitz. Now, Champion's offense has really good hitters that did their thing, and no doubt. And I was saying that Champion might have the two best hitters on the field between these 2 teams, and Gabby Gradishar and Bella Meyer. They both did what they're always kind of used to doing. Gabby Gradishar 1 for 3, her 18th home run of the season, 2 runs scored. She also walked. Bella Meyer had the big RBI as well, 1 for 4. Morgan Davis 2 for 4. Top half of the order for Champion did a lot of damage. But you look at hitters 5 through 9, and it was a combined 1 for 18. 1 for 18 after the 5 spot for Champions lineup. And that's just not going to cut it at this level. You got to have a balanced lineup. You got to have a balanced order. You got to have people that will consistently put pressure on the opposing team's pitcher. And even though Champion put up a heck of a fight, 4-4 after regulation, after tying the game up at 4 with a 3-run 6th inning, there just wasn't enough offense at the bottom half of the order. And really, the top half of the order did that damage, tied the game. And if the bottom of the order was able to continue it, they would have really done a lot of damage in that 6th inning, because I believe through the first 4 hitters in that inning, Champion was still coming up with a really good scoring opportunity, but then Julie Stakowicz kind of took care of business after the 5 spot of the order. So that was one thing Champion struggled with. The other difference in this game was the defensive, miscues by Champion, which are not really expected. They were a really good defense all year, but that particular day, defense failed them a little bit. The first 4 runs that South Range scored were all unearned for Gabby Gradishar. So really, you look at her first 7 innings pitched. She gave up 5 in the first 7 innings. She gave up 5 hits, struck out 10, walked 1, no earned runs. That's a great line, right? That's a you're pitching well enough to win a lot of games with that line. But unfortunately for her, you stack on 3 errors in the first 7 innings, and South Range is able to capitalize on those mistakes and score 4 runs. All 4 of those first 4 runs that the Raiders scored were unearned, and then you come up into the 8th inning, and that's when South Range really put a lot of pressure on Gabby Gradishar, especially bottom of the order, did it again in that 8th inning. And they scored 4 earned runs on her in the top of the 8th and went on to win 8-4. It was a big 8th inning after Champion ties the game in the 6th. They put the Raiders down 1-2-3 in the 7th. Felt like the Flashes had a lot of momentum, but Julie Stakowicz kept them down in the bottom of the 7th. Sent this game into extras, and South Range's offense really responded in the top of the 8th and got that 8-4 win. Players of the game in my eyes were Kelly Zolik, one, because she got the first hit of the game. After the first time through the order, South Range was really struggling against Gradishar. She came up second time up, got the hit that really sparked the first rally that South Range had. She was 2 for 5 on the day. But then the other player of the game that I thought really hit well and really sparked the Raiders was Jaylee Wilt, going 2 for 4 in the 7th spot of the order with an RBI and a run scored. So those were 2 players of the games that I thought really did a good job staying the course. Jaylee Wilt, for example, struck out twice, but still managed to get 2 hits. So she didn't let the fact that a really good pitcher got her a couple of times deter her from her game plan. Came up and got a really big hit in the top of the 8th to get a rally going. And South Range, once again, I think that balanced lineup is going to be their biggest strength. Julie Stakowicz is pitching really, really well, but because their offense can hurt you 1-9, she knows that she doesn't have to pitch perfect. She can go and be really aggressive to some people. She can go after big hitters and know that if I give up 2 or 3 or 4 runs, I have the offense that can absolutely come through in the clutch and do big things 1-9. There's only two players for South Range's offense went without a hit, and both of them still had an RBI because Kira Brogan was 0 for 5, but still had an RBI ground out. And same thing with Sam Suzanne, the RBI bunt, suicide bunt. So she was 0 for 5. So even the people that didn't go without a hit still managed to contribute to the win and contribute to the offense. So this lineup absolutely is deadly. There are no breaks in it, and they're going to need that because as you see in the state semifinals, as we look at the bracket, they are lined up with Wheelersburg, who a lot of people think are one of the favorites to repeat as state champions. They won the state championship in Division III last year, and they've been on a roll in the regionals. 12-0 in their first regional game, 13-0 in this game. Wheelersburg is just kind of cut through their regional like toilet paper, and they'll gear up for a state semifinal. Wheelersburg is the team that beat South Range in the 2016 state championship. That was the Raiders' first ever trip to state, and back then in 2016, it was just the second South Range team to make it to a state championship. Earlier that year, the boys soccer team made it to a state championship game. So that was a big year for South Range athletics, and now softball again in a spot where they can win a second state championship for their school after football obviously won it in the fall. So South Range will take on Wheelersburg on Thursday at Firestone Stadium in Akron. Historic Firestone Stadium, brand new turf on that field. That game is set to start at 12:30 for your first pitch, and we are so excited to be down there in Firestone for all of the action. And we'll go over the rest of the state semifinals here in a little bit. I don't want to go too deep and talk too much because I know that Lisa and Maddie Butis are waiting in the wings. So we will pause our recaps of the regional semifinals and we will bring in Lisa and Maddie Butis into Running Point. Guys, hello. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Having us.
Yes, thanks for having us, Anthony.
You got it. I mean, we're having you on because Fitch won the regional final on Friday. So my first question for both of you, one as a parent, one as a player, what did it feel like to kind of see that team win on the stage that they got to a year before and make that next step and punch your ticket to Firestone Stadium for the first time in 30 years?
As a parent, I was so nervous on Friday going into that day. I mean, I had played softball, and it's a different view though when you're in the stands, and I want to be out there making those plays with them, and it's a whole nother level of intensity. But once we got on the board and then got up by 4, I knew nobody would be able to score that many runs on Sydney. We're pretty secure in being able to win at that point.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable feeling. The whole season, we wanted to get farther than what we did last year, which ended in the regional finals. So to be able to win that game and get to state was unreal.
Maddie, for you, what were some of the things that were going through your head before the game started? I mean, were there nerves? Was it more excitement? What were some of the feelings that you had, stepping into the field regional final Friday?
Yeah, there were definitely nerves. I feel nervous before every game. Just you never know when it could be your last game also. So there were definitely nerves, but we like to make big moments small and just like really focus down and stay in ourselves. So once we really stepped on the field after the national anthem, all those nerves went away because I knew I had my girls behind me and we were going to play great.
Lisa, you talked about watching from the stands and how nervous that makes you as a parent and as a fan of this team. A couple of games in a row that were real nail biters, 2-0, 2-0. This one, the Falcons were able to get a big lead, as you said, and then run with it, 11-1, the final score. Was it easier to watch that kind of game as a parent to know pretty quick you guys?
Oh, I'm sorry, Anthony, you had cut out there. I missed the second part of that.
Oh, was it easier as a parent to watch that game that you guys ran away with, and knew pretty early that you guys had that locked down?
Oh, definitely. I mean, those other games were super intense. And once again, we got on the board, I had a good feeling about those 2 games. But still couldn't, relax or really enjoy the games. Where that Walsh game, then you could see the girls having fun and just knowing that we were most likely going to win that at that point. It's just so much funner to be able to watch the game in that situation than those nail biters. I'm ready to go to my car or hide under a blanket. I can barely stay in the stands even.
You were on the team in 1994, and you were an 8th grader in 1993, the last Fitch team that went to state. So you got to watch all those girls go to state and then really get close yourself 2 years in a row, your freshman and sophomore season. To see this Fitch team not just go to state this year, but also the last 2 years kind of be back to where your teams were and the teams that you grew up watching were. What has that meant to you as a Fitch alum and as someone that has poured a lot into this program?
I mean, it's amazing. The girls I played with were absolutely astonishing. And to see Madison get to play with the same level as those girls has been wonderful. I don't really talk about the years that I played, but I talk about that I was in the years of Jerry Beltempo and Wendy Gifford. And now Madison can say that she played in the years of Steve Ward and Sydney Watts. And Sydney and Wendy were very similar types of pitchers. Wendy in 95 was the only pitcher that we had, and she pitched every one of our games just as Sydney is. And Wendy was definitely intense to play behind. I mean, I was the shortstop at that point in my sophomore year, and Wendy had this grunt that was so intimidating to the other team and even to us. And we knew the harder she threw, the louder that grunt got. And, seeing Sydney pitch, I wouldn't want to step in a box with her, just as I so glad Wendy was on my team and I didn't have to step in the box with her either.
Maddie, I got to ask from your perspective, obviously playing with Sydney, and she's one of the players that is kind of labeled as like the once in generation type player that comes through and probably can play college anywhere she wants. Because of that, you guys get a lot of attention. A lot of eyes are on Fitch. A lot of national eyes are on Fitch. A lot of people are watching from the national, high school softball scene. What's that like for you being a part of this kind of phenomenon that is Fitch softball right now?
Oh, it's wonderful. Sydney's such a humble player too, where most people, when you talk to her outside of softball, you would never think she's as good as what she. And she's just a wonderful person all the time. She was just here like 10 minutes ago swimming in my pool, and we were talking about the upcoming games. But it's great getting the spotlight on all of us because there's so many girls who are going to be playing at collegiate levels on our team. So for everyone to get the spotlight, it's great.
Hey, you're both big softball fans. You get to go into Firestone Stadium, which used to host professional softball. A lot of the legends of this sport has played in this stadium. What's it mean to both of you to kind of see this program kind of get to that spot and be able to play in the best softball stadium in the state of Ohio, the only place you could play a state championship? What's that going to mean for both of you?
I love that she gets to go back to Akron Firestone Stadium. In travel ball, she's had many games there and has had championships get there. One most memorable one was against an Akron Ice team that was a great team when she was playing with Julie Stakowitz and Tori Strines and McKenna Hogan. And we won that tournament there on that field and all got to be out there. And it's just a beautiful field and an amazing experience to get to play there and to get to watch games there. So I am so excited that it's essentially our home field still, and we get to go and on hopefully Friday and Saturday and get to experience watching them play on that sort of stage again.
Yeah, I'm very excited too. Like how she said, I've played there before multiple times. We've had tournaments there and we've won a tournament there. So we know what it's like. And it's turf now, I've heard. So that'll be even nicer since we come from a turf field.
Brand new turf. They just solidified it a couple of weeks ago, so it's going to be fun to kind of christen Firestone Stadium with a bunch of state semifinals. Lisa, I'm wondering, what from your point of view, we know how close knit this Fitch community is, and especially the parent groups of the softball team. I know a couple of them you've known long before the varsity career started with travel and everything like that. But I'm sure there have been friendships that have been bonded over Fitch softball with this parent group. What's it been like to be a part of this kind of I want to say family of Fitch softball from the parent side? We always ask the family part of the player side, but your parents, you're going through it as much as you're build the relationships with the families of the softball players at Fitch.
Oh yeah, I mean these parents, these kids, they are our family members. Like Maddie said, Cindy and Ayla were both just here. They just walk right in the house. They go swimming. McKenna Hogan, Madison has played with since she was 10 years old. Those individuals are our family. My husband actually graduated high school with Steve Hogan and Kurt Mitchell, and all three of us now have senior starting daughters on this team. So getting to see all of them play together and the bonds that even those guys have had since they were in high school, graduating in 1991, has just been unbelievable. Even through the travel scene, I played travel ball for Ed A with Julie or Kim Stackowitz Shrines, and for Madison then to get to play with them 20 years later on their teams and play with their daughters, and Ed even coached Madison for a couple of those years. It was just amazing to get to see the same coach and to essentially be a father and a grandfather to her also.
Such a full circle moment. Do you ever stop and pinch yourself on like how the stars have aligned and so many things are coming full circle for your family?
Definitely. I mean, Ed will post pictures from when I was 15, 16 years old playing for him with Kim and Lindsay and Nikki all right there by me. And I tell Madison that one day they will be watching their kids playing and we'll be the grandma, like Denise say, screaming hits and runs there and rooting on our kids.
Maddie, what are some of the biggest advices that you've gotten from your mom as far as softball, being someone that has played in these kind of situations and played in regional finals herself? What were some things that she told you before the regional final that you took to heart?
My mom's always been a big support with me in softball and always telling me like what to do, how to fix things, but just to keep going, to keep putting in work, to keep getting better, because eventually we were going to get there. We always knew this was going to happen. We were going to be a state team. So she always just tells me to keep trying my hardest and things will align.
It's only Monday. I feel like we're gonna be patiently waiting until Friday just to come along. How are you guys gonna handle this week? How are you gonna try to keep it as normal as possible as a team? And what's it gonna be like trying to prepare for another team that you don't know too much about, going up against Lebanon all the way from Cincinnati? What's it gonna be like to just kind of have another week with your team and to be able to prepare for another game?
Yeah, we didn't have practice today because it was Memorial Day, so he was kind of giving us a day off. But we have practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I think we're gonna do some like live pitching and more defensive work, just keeping everything normal how we've done all season because we have a big focus on consistency and not changing the way we do.
Lisa,
And
how
I
are you going to handle the excitement heading into the week? How are you going to handle like having to wait until Friday?
Yeah, I'm still living right now in the moment of the win from Friday, so I'm feeling good right now. But I know as Thursday rolls around, definitely Friday morning, I don't know how I'm going to function. I mean, it will be hard to even drive to Akron at that point. This Friday, I couldn't even speak to anybody. I was so nervous till, like I said, we got those like 4 runs. So hopefully board quick again and I will be able to feel much better. But regardless, just getting to state now, I mean, this is such a huge accomplishment. I feel like, we've already won. It's been such a great season.
You brought up being close with the Stackwitz family, and obviously Julie and South Range are also going to be in the state semifinals as well as Canfield. What's it mean to you as a fan and Maddie as a player that has played it with and against a lot of these players to see so many local athletes succeed in softball and kind of prove that our area is not one to be messed with when it comes to the softball talent?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and just the small vicinity of Austintown and essentially 2 Canfield teams that have gotten to this level, it is absolutely amazing. And when I started playing travel ball 30 years ago, there was barely any travel teams out there. And now, I mean, our area is just inundated with them. But you see what a strong and dominant area that this, Mahoning Valley is for girls softball. Even in Austintown Fitch, I don't know that there's been many other girls teams at all that have ever gotten to the but now we can say softball has twice. And I mean, it's just such a huge accomplishment to be able to say that I play softball. My daughter plays softball for Fitch, and we actually have a younger one, JV team for Fitch. And I even tell her all the time, you're still a part of this. You practice with those girls, you push them, and just to be any part of Fitch softball is a huge honor.
Maddie, what's it like for you knowing the players that you've played against and with are also kind of making the trip down to state as well? And you can say that you've played against Canfield twice, who's going to a state semifinal, and you scrimmaged South Range and you play with the Stackwitz. And what's it like knowing that there's so much that you are familiar with going down to state with you guys?
Yeah, Canfield and South Range are both really good teams, so they deserve that all the way to be there. And we're friends with both of them. Like, I have friends on Canfield, obviously friends on South Range. So I'm really close with both those teams. I played with Sam Suzanne as well on travel. So it is like mostly just like a proud feeling that we're all down there representing Mahoning Valley, and we're all going to put up a show.
All right, Lisa, we always ask the players about superstitions during games and superstitions, that they have. But as a parent watching the games, do you have any superstitions that you try to stick to help this team win?
Not so much. I mean, I did notice that I was wearing the same shirt each week for that day, Friday, things like that. I didn't want to change that up. I'm not sure what I will have on this week yet, but I mean, I just love watching Madison out there and the joy that she does bring to the team and the excitement. And when I can see that he's having fun, I know that it's going to be a good game. I don't want the girls super nervous. And her and Ayla always start the game out with Madison running underneath Ayla's legs at shortstop. And the other team must think they're absolute goofballs, but I think they need that tension breaker. So as long as I see them still doing that, I know that it's going to be a good game and that they're not overly nervous because they are first and foremost still having fun out there.
Did you have any superstitions as a player when you were playing that you kind of kept a routine in?
I didn't have so much as superstitions, but I had nervous tics, which I know Madison also has had through the years, where I had to constantly be moving, and I would play shortstop or second base, and I would almost dig a hole into the ground where I was at because my feet were just constantly going. And I have noticed most of the time I can't sit in the stands. I need to be standing, and I'm constantly moving something where I almost feel like I want to be out there with them and I want to make that next play, but I just can't sit still at that point.
My last question for you as a softball fan, I obviously I couldn't watch in the 90s. What do you think is the biggest way that softball has changed since you played?
Definitely the intensity. we lifted and had open gyms, but they're nothing like the program that Fitch has right now. Like I said, there was not many travel teams at that time. I came right out of slow pitch when I was in 8th grade and went on to Fitch's team and then into travel ball. A lot of the girls stayed there for a longer amount of time, which now fast pitch is starting at 7, 8 years old for these girls. So they are getting much better, much faster than what we did at that time. We also used to play in shorts. So I always show Madison pictures, and we still slid and did everything else. So I remember my knees being all torn up and bleeding and all that if you didn't slide correctly, but we played in shorts at that time.
All right, I want to hear from Maddie one more time before we get out of here. So my last question for you, Maddie, is when you had the final out for the regional final, who was the first teammate that you had to celebrate with?
Oh, the first one that I went to was Ayla, because Ayla's like my best friend always, and we always hug after almost every game. So I saw her. I was on third base, and I scored the winning run from Caitlin's hit, and I think Ayla was going around third at that time. So as soon as I scored, I turned around and I saw her, and we ran at each other and hugged, and then everyone went over to Caitlin to give her a big hug for the win.
All right, what a great full circle moment. Maddie and Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show today and talking about how it's been like to have such a big, strong Fitch family. And we appreciate the time. We wish you the best of luck in this upcoming week. And we will see you on Friday at Firestone Stadium for a state semifinal.
Thank you. And thank you
so
for
much.
all your coverage of them.
You got it. We'll see you soon, guys.
Bye.
Maddie and Lisa Mutis joining us from Austintown Fitch. What a cool moment to kind of get the reality of how full circle this Austintown Fitch program really has come. Once again, Lisa Mutis played on the 1994 and 95 teams that both went to regional finals, and then the year before, in 1993, in Lisa's 8th grade season, Fitch went to the state semifinals. The last time Fitch won a regional championship was 30 years ago. So, like the headline for that game says, it was a championship that was 30 years in the making, and Fitch has won it. We'll talk about that game, and we'll talk about Canfield's game as well after this break when we get back on Running Point. As always, it's going to be brought to you by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Back in a minute.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
From on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
How lucky are we to have not one, but two 18-hole Donald Ross Championship golf courses right here in our backyards. Mill Creek Golf Course was selected by Golf Week as one of America's 30 best municipal courses, continuing to challenge golfers of all levels and featuring golf instruction by PGA professionals, a state-of-the-art practice range, a PGA of America recognized pro shop, kids programs, and a relaxing grill room for a memorable golf experience. For more information or to schedule a tee time, visit millcreekmetroparks.org.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Going from mindful to mindful sometimes requires a helping, healing hand. Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness offers a continuum of mental health and wellness care. At Insight, we're changing the way you receive counseling and wellness services with experienced licensed clinicians and expertly trained wellness staff. With 4 locations in Mahoning and Columbiana County, along with telehealth services, Insight offers clients quick access to care when they need it. Transform your mental health and wellness at Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com. As always, brought to you by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig with you. We're going to dive back into the recaps of those regional finals that were going down on Friday with softball. Let's pop them in. We had the Division III bracket. We went over it before we get out for this bracket. I just want to go over and show you the rest of the state semifinal action, as the other end of the state bracket will look like this. Indian Lake is going to take on Johnstown. Remember, Johnstown is the team that South Range played in 2021 in the state semifinals, and they were able to beat Johnstown to get to the state championship game back in 2021. Johnstown is a very rich and good softball program. One of the recent YSU Penguin stars, Maddie Lusk, who graduated not this year, but last year from YSU, she went to Johnstown, and she was a Johnstown alum, so they have a very rich history of very good softball, and they're back in the state semifinals, and they will play against Indian Lake on Thursday at 10, so you'll have that game before South Range plays Wheelersburg, and then after that, they'll go into the Division II semifinals on Thursday, which is where we're going to go to next as we go back and we go into the Division II statewide tournament brackets on the OHSAA website. And we look at this, and this time we don't have to go too far from the bottom because Canfield's on the top end of the bracket. They get the win over Marlington 2-1, and this game was very close. Marlington put up a heck of a fight in this game. As we pull up the box score for this one, Canfield gets the win 2-1, and just like every other game they seem to play in, Melena Toth pitched an incredible game. Her final line was 7 innings pitched. She gave up 2 hits, 1 run. It was a home run, 1 walk, and 10 strikeouts for Toth. And she did that with 114 pitches. So if you do the math, that's a pretty good pitch efficiency. It's about 16 pitches per inning, which isn't bad at all, especially in a high-pressure situation in the regional finals. Batting the one big bats that came through for Canfield, Sydney Lutz had an RBI. She was 1 for 2. Just 1 RBI on the day for Canfield. Jenna Treveri 1 for 4 with a run scored. The first 3 hitters of the Canfield's lineup all had a hit, with Panunzio, Treveri, and Freedy all having a hit on the day. Nobody had multiple hits, though, as the only other hits for Canfield came from Toth and Lutz, who had the lone RBI. Everyone else was either hitless or at least walked. There were a couple of walks drawn, as Faith Morrell drew a walk, got on base, and then also Haley Merritt drew a walk and caught on base as well. You look at the way this game went. Canfield was down 1-0 after 1 inning. Remember that home run was hit by Marlington, and it was Ella Jackson that hit it. Their 2-hole hitter. She was 1 for 3, with a RBI and a run scored. So they were down 1-0. They came right back, scored a run in the top of the second, and then it was tied until the top of the fifth. Canfield scored their second run of the day. That was all they needed, as they held Marlington scoreless from that point on. 2 runs on 5 hits for Canfield, 2 errors on the defense. On the other end for Marlington, 1 run on 2 hits, 3 errors on their side. So not the cleanest defensive game ever, but Canfield does come out on top with really good pitching from Elena Toth and clutch offense from Sydney Lutz and Jenna Treveri. As we go into Canfield's opponent, they were going to get the bottom end of this top half bracket, and they get Steubenville. This game was played on Saturday, so Canfield actually had to wait a little bit to know who they were going to play. This one was to avoid the graduation that was happening for, I believe, Steubenville graduation was Friday night. Interesting that if Triway were to get into the regional finals, that one would have been set for the same time for the same reason, Sunday at noon. Obviously, South Range beat Triway, so that was not a factor. But Steubenville was able to win Saturday afternoon against Unito. I don't know how you would say that. Unioto. It sounds kind of Japanese a little bit. Unioto. But anyway, 6-4. That's how my brain works. I apologize. But Steubenville gets the win, 6-4 over Unioto, and they advance into the state semifinals against Canfield. The other end of this bracket, you're going to see Malamie. They lose to Talmadge 10-5. Talmadge kind of wins in a lot of offensive fashion. Talmadge beat Canfield earlier this year in a regular season matchup. 3-2 is the final score in that one. So if those two meet again, it'll be a knockdown, drag-out battle between two teams that are pretty familiar with each other. And then on the bottom half of the bracket, it was Greenville that got the win over Kinston Ridge, 5-2, the final score there. So it's going to be Greenville in the state semifinals against Talmadge, and then the top end of the bracket is Canfield against Steubenville for the chance to go to the state championship game. This game for Canfield will be on Thursday at 3 o'clock at Firestone Stadium, and then the other Division II semifinal will follow that at 5:30, and that'll be it for the day. Divisions 1 and 4 are going to be played on Friday down at Firestone Stadium. Divisions 2 and 3 are going to be played on Thursday. We go into that Division 1 statewide tournament bracket to see how that one shaped up. And that one is obviously the Fitch game that we talked about earlier. And Austintown Fitch, they are at the bottom of the bracket right here. They win 11-1 over Walsh Jesuit, a run rule victory for Fitch to get the win and get into the state semifinals for the first time since 1993. And then on the other end, it is Lebanon out of Cincinnati. They got the win 7-0 over Fairfield to get into the state semifinals as well. Lebanon, a very good team out of the East Cincinnati Conference, and they actually had, just to show you how good that conference is, in the regional semifinals opposite of Lebanon, you see Milford, who is also in their conference and split with Lebanon. Fairfield was able to beat Milford in that game by the same score that Lebanon eventually beat Fairfield, 7-0. So Lebanon gets the win there. They are on a 24-game winning streak. They have not lost since they lost to Milford back in the starting weeks of this season. So a 24-game winning streak from Lebanon. Obviously, Fitch undefeated. They're on a win streak. That's kind of evident. That's how it works when you're undefeated. And they will play each other on Friday. The start time of that game is going to be at 12:30. One of the players to watch out for Lebanon is Aubrey Smith. The senior leads the team in batting average, second on the team in home runs with 7. But the big number that is really eye-popping for Smith is 58 RBIs on the year, and she couples that with an ERA just over 1 in the circle. The senior has had a great career with Lebanon, the Warriors, I believe, and they will she'll also be fighting hard to keep her senior season alive against Fitch. You can never underestimate the tenacity of a senior that's trying to keep her season alive. So anytime teams have a player that is leading their team in multiple categories, it's also a senior. I always get a little bit nervous about those teams because they're the ones that are going to fight, tooth and nail to keep that leader's season alive. On the other end of that bracket, you're going to get Anthony Wayne. This game will be Friday at 10 o'clock. Anthony Wayne got the win 7-3 over Holland Springfield. A lot of Springfields in the state of Ohio. And then on the other end of this one, you're going to have Watkins Memorial. Watkins gets the win 6-0 over Marysville to advance to the state semifinals. Not a lot of competitive regional finals in Division One. You saw 7-3, 6-0. Obviously, Fitch run rules with 11-1, and then Lebanon wins 7-0. So, a lot of these regional finals were mismatches. Now you're going to see the benefactors of that punch their ticket into the next round. That's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Maybe sometimes when you have a uncompetitive regional final, it equals a very competitive state semifinal. So it'll be interesting to see how those two games go. Once again, 10 o'clock is your first Division One state semifinal between Anthony Wayne and Watkins Memorial. And then at 12:30 is the Fitch game, which will be against Lebanon at 12:30 at Firestone Stadium. And then Division 4, where we do not have a team playing a YSN, they will be at 3 and 5:30 after those two games are done. I do want to give a shout out, though, to Matthews, who's not a YSN team, but definitely a local team. They fell in the regional final, unfortunately for them, but they put together a really good season, and they're returning all but one of their players next year. So even though Matthews is not a YSN team, I was pulling for him because you always pull for local teams to represent our area. And unfortunately, they were just a little bit short of a regional championship this year, but their window is still open with a lot of talent coming back next year for the Mustangs. So that's going to do it for today's episode. I'm going to end a little bit early today. One, because it's Memorial Day and all the family is home, so I want to make sure that I'm still giving them time, but I wanted to hop on today and obviously share that interview with Lisa and Maddie, but also do the recaps while they're still relevant and while we're not getting too excited for the games coming up. We're going to have, we already announced it on social, there's going to be a special show on Wednesday at 7 at Legends Food and Drink for South Range Softball as we celebrate the regional championship for them. That'll be at 7 o'clock on Wednesday at Legends Food and Drink. Tomorrow, Canfield will have one as well at Coco's Pizza at 7 o'clock. So make sure to come down to Coco's for Canfield. Come down to Legends Food and Drink for South Range and celebrate those two great teams as they get ready for a state semifinal trip to Firestone Stadium in Akron. I'm going to have a lot of fun. So tomorrow we'll be back from 1 to 2 on Running Point. Brought to you as always by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin.